Welcome to our second session on Robert's Rules of Order. My name is Randall Edge. I've been a parliamentarian now for nearly 2 decades, and we are examining in this series of podcasts the workings of Robert's Rules of Order. So let's get to it. In the first session, we learned a little bit about definitions and the concept that there is a traffic cop, if you will, a leader of the meeting. And we refer to that person as the presiding officer, the chair. For the purposes of this course, I'm going to refer to them as either the presiding officer or the chair. Now, when we start with a motion, it's important to appreciate that there's a bit of a process, a bit of a flow that takes place. And this process allows for the meeting to proceed. Now, let's first be clear that this is in the context of a business meeting. Sometimes there are meetings in which there's all kinds of things going on, and in the middle of it, someone takes the gavel and gavels in the business meeting, which is contained within the course of affairs for that day. And so what happens is that at that moment when the leader, it could be the president, could be the chairman, whatever position you want to call it, they've called the meeting to order. And from that moment on, business is being enacted for the organization. And so nothing happens until someone makes a motion. And so the motion is a proposal. And as a result of that, the leader of the meeting is going to be asking and soliciting motions from the floor, from the members of the organization. And the motion that we start with, we refer to as the main motion. And you'll see as this series unfolds why that's important. So there's a bit of a process, and the leader of the meeting is almost like an auctioneer in that they are running the meeting according to a series of steps. Let's just go through what those steps are. An individual member raises their hand, and they do something to get the attention of the presiding officer. The presiding officer recognizes them. Okay, you have the floor. There's transfer of control in that moment. Once the individual has the floor, they control the floor. And so they are free to make the motion. So the leader of the meeting, and this is when I'm in this role, ladies and gentlemen, we have a motion on the floor. The motion is that the dues for the organization is to increase by 10%. The motion has been made. Is there a seconder? Move on to the next step. Now, a seconder is a person who is in the room, who rises, gets the attention of the chair, is recognized by the chair, and they say, I second the motion. Now, why do we do this? The answer is to keep the meeting efficient. And if there's no seconders, that's a good thing, because what has just happened is the motion that's been made could be frivolous. It could be really inappropriate. And so there has to be at least one other person in the room present that wants to speak about this. Now, sometimes I watch people who raise their hand and stand up, well, I'll let us talk about it, so I'll second it. And that is an abuse of parliamentary process. Seconding it for the sake of seconding it is wasting everyone's time. And that's what we're trying to fight. So the presiding officer says, ladies and gentlemen, we have a motion on the floor. The motion is that we're going to be increasing dues by 10%. The motion has been made. It has been seconded. I'm now in a position where I can open the floor for debate or discussion. Now, what I'm going to try and do as the meeting leader is I'm going to try and alternate between the pro and the cons on this issue. So I'm going to look at the person who made the motion. Obviously, they're for it because they made it. And I'll call upon them to speak in favor of the motion. I'll let them have their time when they're finished. What I'll usually do, is there anyone that wants to speak against the motion? Now, I'm saying that in a specific way to encourage the negative side of the debate. And I'll go back and forth. until I sense everyone has had their say. And then I do things in threes. And this is, I think, a best practice. The idea is that by threes, you're giving everyone a chance to jump in. Ladies and gentlemen, we've had a motion on the floor. The motion is to increase dues by 10%. The motion has been seconded. Is there any more discussion? Any more debate? Any more discussion? Hearing no more discussion, are we ready to vote? I think we're ready to vote. Let's vote. All in favor, raise your left hand. All opposed, raise your right. I do this because it's very visual and you can figure out who's against and who's for the issue. Ladies and gentlemen, I, by tally count that I've just made, see that the motion has been defeated. And then I turn to the secretary. Madam Secretary, please record in the minutes a motion. The motion was made by John, seconded by Sally, and the motion has been defeated. The motion that dues are to increase by 10%. And those are the basic steps that every motion goes through in its simplest form. There's a little more complexity, of course, because we're human beings and we like making things just a little more complicated. But that's the basic foundation of how business is passed. So let's break this down a little bit, just a little bit. Now, what I'm trying to say here is that if I'm a member and I need to have something passed, I get the attention of the chair recognizes me. Now there's some politics that can be introduced to this process. Thank you, Madam Chairman, for letting me speak on this issue today. I have a very important motion to make. I want to make a motion, and I want to do this, in an effort to make our club more professional in appearance. I think we've gotten a little sloppy. And what am I doing at this stage? I'm going to do a timeout. I am lobbying for my issue. There's nothing to stop me from having a preamble. And once I have my preamble done, therefore, Madam Chair, I move that all silly people are banned from becoming members of our club. So once that's done, now it goes back to the presiding officer. And the presiding officer is going to be saying, is there a seconder for this motion? Is there a seconder? Oh, Fred, you have the floor. And the seconder says, Mr. Chairman, I second the motion. Now, they could do a preamble themselves. So if you plan things out, appropriately, you've got, if you're wanting to get something passed, you have at least a minimum 2 opportunities to speak for the issue. And then, of course, we move to the stage where the chair will open the floor for discussion. And they'll probably go back to the person who made the motion, who gets a 3rd opportunity to speak on behalf of the motion. So a little bit of planning by an individual who's part of the group is not, I'm not going to use a double negative. It is appropriate to do and part of the process. So these are the 8 basic steps that we go through whenever we are wanting to pass a motion, a piece of business for the organization. In the series to come, we'll be covering much more material for Robert Rules, but just wanted to spend this session talking about the foundation, the main motion. If you found this session useful, please indicate this by selecting the like button below. I would appreciate any likes I can get. There will be more sessions coming. If you're interested in seeing the future sessions, and trust me, there's going to be a lot in this series. If you wish to see the next session, well, why not subscribe to this channel and select the notification button so that you know when each new session is added in due course. If you have any questions or you have specific topics you'd like answered, feel free to leave comments in the comments section, and I will incorporate your questions in future sessions. Thank you, and remember that our objective is to do more in meetings in less time, and Robert's rules allow us to do that. Look forward to seeing you in the next session.